Today, I have the luxury of having a two-car solution. Something fun, which is my air-cooled 911, and then something reliable and capable, which is my Lexus LX 570. Prior to being able to have two cars, I was always searching for the one-car solution, something that I could drive every day, yet have fun with as well. To me, a one-vehicle solution needs to cover a lot of different bases. It needs to be able to carry 4 people or more because I've got family, friends, employees, customers that I have to drive around. It needs to have enough storage to take a road trip or drive to the airport and put your luggage in. It needs to be fun to drive and exciting. It needs to be, from a value perspective, something that it's not going to tank as I drive it. And then it needs to have enough modern conveniences to, be not a nuisance to drive. Things like good climate control, keyless entry, all the things we expect in modern cars today. But when you think about something like my old 911, it lacks a lot of those things. Also, to be the perfect daily driver for me, I want a really good stereo. I want something that's good to look at. So ultimately, the closest I've ever come to having a single car solution was a 958 Cayenne GTS, which I regret selling. But today I get to spend some time with a vehicle that I've admired in the past, which is an Aston Martin Rapide. This is a 5.9 liter V12 sedan hatchback-ish vehicle that at first glance just looks like a stretched DBS or DB9 until you look a bit closer. So today I'm going to spend some time with this Rapide and see if it could be a one-car solution. Let's get into it. All right, we're going to stick our motion control unit here in the dash, put our foot on the brake. Oh, the B&O speaker greets us, the old school navigation greets us as well. But more importantly, we're greeted by the sound of that V12. Slapper and drive, pull back on our column-mounted paddle to throw it in first. Of course, it's yet another rainy Saturday here in St. Louis, so I'm sure we'll have some grip challenges, but ultimately, this thing is not a track missile. This is grand touring vehicle for the businessman who likes to have a little bit of fun. Oh, the sound. A 5.9 liter rounded up to a 6 liter V12. I want to say this is 2 Duratec V6s mated together. This Aston should be from Aston's Ford and Volvo era back in the day. And because this is a ZF gearbox and not a double clutch, you get that kind of growl in between gear shifts, like what I like about my Cayenne GTS that I used to have. Ooh, a little shift light. So in the center of the gauge cluster there, the gear position turned red when it was time to shift. I like that. It's at least kind of warm here today. It's 60 degrees in St. Louis, but it is nasty, overcast, rainy. We're probably a month or 2 away from being able to bring you guys some really awesome content in the warm, dry weather. I'm looking forward to driving some cool stuff for you guys. But on a rainy day, why not take a grand touring daily driver V12? And I just passed a cop going over the speed limit, and he did break his neck. The question is are we going to get pulled over? I think we're good. All right, back to normally scheduled events, folks. The sound, the growl. I hope it picks it up on camera well for you guys. Surprisingly, this does hide its weight and size more than I was expecting. I've actually not driven a Rapide prior to today. I've driven two V12 Vantages from this era, which had the same engine, but it's, Aston's smallest vehicle and their sportiest, I would say. It's pretty composed for its size. This thing is really designed to compete with something like a Bentley Flying Spur, a Panamera Turbo, or any of the other Grand Coupe kind of wagons out there. Tighter corner than I was thinking there. This doesn't even feel right, a vehicle this big, having this kind of fun in the twisties. The classic counterclockwise Aston Martin tachometer. It's so cool seeing 220 miles per hour on an analog gauge cluster. On something with 4 doors, too. I'm a sucker for column-mounted paddles. The one thing that I wish Aston would not have pulled from either the Ford or Volvo parts bin was the turn signal stalk. It is about the cheapest feeling thing I've flipped in a while here to flip on my signal. And keep in mind, this thing would have been around $200,000 to $300,000 back in when it was released, and it depends on how you spec'd it and optioned it. So it's pretty surprising that that's where they chose to cheap out. But pull back one of these paddles and you'll quickly forget that turn signal stalk. Initial thoughts right out of the gate: I love the driving position. It's very low. You feel like you are in something special. A lot of performance sedans out there are derived from just regular sedans, something like a 5 Series, and turning it into an M5, and something like the driving position is where that shows. This reminds me of the Panamera more, where it has a much lower driving position. Everything is kind of above me, and it just makes you feel like you're driving something special. The other thing I've been surprised about is, so I've never driven a Rapide prior to today, but I have driven the same generation V12 Vantage on 2 different occasions. And of course, that's Aston Martin's, smallest and sportiest vehicle, I would say. And, those beat you up pretty good. I was expecting to get into this Rapide and it be maybe bouncy or jumpy, and it's not. It is much more plush and softer on the highway, similar to something like an S-Class or a 7 Series. And I was surprised. It's actually kind of refreshing, because I do think this vehicle is designed for, somebody to use it as a daily driver. And maybe it's the kind of one vehicle that does it all for you. I've looked at these Rapides for 5+ years and have watched the, depreciation and everything. And I've always thought they were appealing, because it's undeniable. This has gotta be the best looking sedan ever made. And I know that's a bold statement, but this thing literally just looks like a stretched, DBS or DB9. And at first glance, it doesn't even look like it has 4 doors. And remember, this comes from the era of the first generation Panamera Turbo that looked like a 911 and somebody pumped up the rear end with a bicycle pump. This is just absolutely gorgeous. To my surprise, I've had people taking photos of me already in this thing like they haven't seen one before. Now, are these car people, or are these people that just like nice things? because this is a $70,000 vehicle at this point. It's no longer the $300,000 insane top 1%er vehicle anymore. Oh, the sound. And unlike some other competitors in this space, this does just have a ZF transmission, which some people might hold against it. But if I'm going to daily drive something and sit in traffic, the double clutches from this era were clunky. They didn't creep well in traffic. They were kind of lurchy. And the Aston Martins at this time would have had a single clutch, which was just bonkers. It was really slow shifting. So the ZF is absolutely the right transmission for this vehicle, giving it more of like a grand touring vehicle. Oof. Everything is super tight in here. The attention to detail is insane. The stitching everywhere, the fitment. You know, you're very isolated in here. It's like riding in a bank vault. I think the Rapide has probably got one of the best looking back seats. You don't have to be a car person to sit back there and think this is really something special. The tunnel that goes through the middle, and they're kind of like these individual buckets back there, because ultimately this is a 4-seater because the tunnel goes all the way back. It looks like something special, and it is. Ultimately, these things did not sell well when they were new, because without options, I think they were around $220,000, and after speccing one out, you might be into the threes, which was just an insane amount of money when on paper it didn't outperform its competitors. But fast forward 10 years, and depreciation's done its thing like on most Aston Martins, this becomes a little bit more of an appealing story. But what's interesting is I've been watching these for, like I said, 4 or 5 years, and I think depreciation has plateaued. These things have been like 60 to 70,000 for clean examples for like 5 years. Meaning I could have bought one of these 4 or 5 years ago, probably daily drove it, and not lose anything in terms of value. Which, that's when it starts to maybe make a little bit of sense, because, let's be honest, this thing probably is going to have a more expensive maintenance schedule than some of its competitors, like a Panamera. But if the value is holding, then you're just spending money on maintenance instead of losing money on depreciation. Ooh, the sound. I hope the microphone picks that up for you guys. And you know, in this era of Aston Martin, technology was a little bit weird as well. So I think to somebody who was going to spend 200,000 plus, this thing did lack some technology. The navigation was kind of like a standalone Garmin thing that Aston was doing at the time. However, of course, it's got a phenomenal stereo. This has the B&O, the tweeters come greet you out of the dash, kind of like the 6 Series BMW did when you got the B&O system. It sounds just absolutely insane. If you're an audiophile, like this is the system to get. It's as good as it gets. As good as it gets. I'm of the opinion, I think vehicles from this kind of 2010 era, they had better stereos than modern cars today. I can't take credit for it, but I think the term is shitification. As time passes, the products are getting more profitable, but worse for the consumer, and I think that's reflected in some of our car stereos today. Because I had a 2013 Cayenne GTS with Bose, and I had a 2021 Cayenne with Bose, and the 13 sounded better. But the lack of tech in here made it less appealing to some of its competitors at the time. I would argue that's what makes it appealing to me now. Like, I love the analog gauges. This was like peak modern kind of minimalism, and it just looks really special. I don't need a bunch of screens. I can flip this Garmin thing down and never look at it and focus on the driving experience. And I can either listen to that V12 or I can listen to an absolutely banging stereo. We're gonna hop out on the highway here because ultimately that's where this thing shines. Slap it back in automatic here. We're cruising on the highway. I still have it in sport. I still have the suspension in sport, and everything in here is supple. It's comfortable. I'm not anxious driving this. And I think that's important because in a daily driver, I don't want to be, worried all the time. Do I have the right clearance? Is it challenging to drive? If I turn sport off and turn the suspension back in normal, this is easy. I could drive this every day. And I actually think you could have a family in here and nobody would complain about ride quality or noise. Like I said, I'm genuinely surprised that this is more on the daily cruiser side than I was thinking it would be. I was expecting to be beat up more and making more sacrifices to have a big old V12 up front, and you're not. This thing is really enjoyable to drive. I could totally see somebody wanting to daily drive this. Aston did make the strategic choice of only offering this thing in rear-wheel drive, and I think that's to appease the purist. Would it have been cool to have all-wheel drive to make this even a more capable daily driver? Yes. But I imagine it would have taken away from the driving experience. So I do think a rear-wheel drive was the right move. I'll have to look. I don't know if these things could be spec'd with glass on the roof. This thing has got Alcantara everywhere. Not as much as the current generation Vantage I drove that was Alcantara'd out. But there is a lot of Alcantara in here, and it's a very good-looking place to be. Something else that surprised me is just the sheer amount of storage and cubbies in here. I got a lot of camera gear and microphones and wires and things with me right now, and I've got them all stored away in places with zero rattle. I love that. I hate when manufacturers don't coat and pad things with fabric and materials so things don't jiggle around. Again, we're cruising down the highway 70 miles an hour right now, and this is just a relaxing place to be. However, slap it in sport, turn the sport suspension on, knock it down a few gears, hit second maybe. Ooh, hear the backfire. Give it a little gas. Ooh, I love it. I am a sucker for paddle-mounted shifters. You know where they are. It's just fun. And again, the shifts aren't like super snappy. It's this nice blend of, it's not lurchy. It doesn't jerk you around when you aren't wanting to have fun, yet it's fast enough to shift when you want to knock off a few gears and get into it a bit. So this particular Rapide is for sale at RP Exotics. They're a dealer here in St. Louis, Missouri. They've got a ton of exotic cars, sports cars, and luxury SUVs. They actually have two Rapides for sale currently for about the same price. This is the white over black, and then they have a white over like this tan burgundy, which I'm a sucker for. I think I'm a little biased towards that color spec, but I'll actually link both in the description in case you were interested in a Aston Martin Rapide, such as this one. This one's got 31,000 miles, and from what I can tell is in really great shape. I've not really noticed any imperfections around it. I love this kind of pearl white paint. It's not sunny right now, but man, earlier before the clouds showed up, it pops. I like it a lot. Well guys, this is Scott with the Carrera Cafe. I really appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. I review vehicles like this, as well as my ownership of my air-cooled 911 and a couple Lexus SUVs that I have. If that's something that you enjoy, please like, subscribe, and come along for the journey. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.